for the children to know. And even in their dancing, like the Arizona ladies they dance differently from here, the desert. So by their dancing, you'll know where they're from, who they are, by their dancing, their singing, their language, the way they speak. You know, when you hear that a lot, know who you are and where you come from. But without your language, how are you going to know? My name is Christina Morreo. I'm 68 years old. I'm from Torres-Martinez. I'm a language cultural coordinator for the TANF. That's on a reservation. I teach the language. I work with my nieces and my granddaughter, which is doing a really great job. And my mother's name was Cecilia Arenas. My dad's name was Isidore Dominguez. And we lived on the Torres-Martinez reservation for all my life, I think.
Been with Bird? I know you were saying a little bit earlier, but what can you tell me about that, some of that background?
Well, the only one that I could think of are my two sisters. They used to go to the fiestas. They weren't powwows back in the day, they call them fiestas at the different reservations. And my older brother, he learned a lot of songs from my uncles and Roy Levi. He was a shaman, a medicine man that used to come to my home, and my dad would always call on him when he got sick or anything. And he was one of the Levi brothers. That was Bert's brother, but I'm trying to mention Robert Levi's uncle, his dad's brother. And there was a Ben Levi. And they were the ones that used to sing birds and stuff, you know, that I remember of the older. Very little do I remember my mom dancing. The way they danced back then, it was different from what I see nowadays. You know, back then it was like the men would stand up and they'd be singing, you know, and they'd move forward, and the women would hop, like birds that hop backwards. And then when the men would back up, well, the women would hop forward. It was kind of like a back and forth, you know, dance that they would do. And back then, it wasn't like, you know, what do you call it? Competing with one another for money or anything. It was a celebration, like for the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, you know. And what the Levites, my brother used to say, they would try and trick them. You know, they'd sing. Now, don't question me on this because I'm just repeating what I was told. That sing the single, you know, bird songs, and then while they were dancing, they'll sing a double song, you know. And they always did try to catch my oldest brother, but for some reason or other, they could never catch him, and they would just laugh, you know. The Levi brothers, or they just shake their head and laugh because, you know, they'd even throw that triple step thing, songs. I don't know what the difference is, but the songs they sang. But they could never catch my brother, and he was just a young boy at that time, but he grew up, you know, he learned a lot of songs from the other elders at that time. There was the Potentials. He learned some of their songs. Well, the Potentials were related to us on my mom's side. What I could remember about what my sisters would talk about, really. Now, they were the ones that used to whoop and holler and everything else when they'd dance, you know, and they'd go to the different fiestas, like I said. Yeah, and they were the ones that knew, that would do the bird dance and stuff like that. I used to like to just sit around and watch them, though. I used to like to listen to them, you know, at night, you know, and they'd have the big old, like a bonfire and stuff, and they had their I can't say it was a ramada. It was, they would build it up like with the palm fronds and wire, and then they'd have that fire going in there, and that's what the Levites would sing. They were the only ones that I thought that knew how to sing the birds. I didn't know about the other groups, but my brother said, oh, there's a lot of them, a lot of different groups that have their own songs, you know. So.
This used to go on all night.
Oh yeah, my husband, Philip Morreo, the Levi's were his uncles, and they lived right there. You know, his mom was their sister, Nancy Levi was her name, and he said that they could go like from in the afternoon. Like say they start Christmas Eve, for example, and they could go all night long to almost the same time the following day without repeating the songs. Like now you hear them, you know, one group will sing and they may be the same song that the other group sang before. And they had different, what did he say? Like it was a whole long story, and without repeating, you know, the songs. You know, about the creation, and then they're traveling, and then about when they get to where they are traveling to, they'll stop, and that's when they'd sing and celebrate because they reached their destination. You know, so yeah, there was a lot of songs that tell about their travels. First, the creations. I guess they talk about. The animals, it seems like, because I try to listen to their songs and I can catch some are saying about the kupani, about the woodpecker, and then something about the rabbits, and then how they're splitting up, or something, you know, I don't really, but from the songs that I hear, I did get with Robert Levi one time and I asked him, I said, do you understand what they're saying? I said, the songs you sing, do you really understand all of it? And he told me, he goes, well, you know, he said, some of them I do. He said, but a lot of them, he said, I think it's the old Cahuilla way, you know. So he said he didn't know every word or every, you know, but just from, I guess, hearing his dad's recordings or something, he got some got them off of there, I guess. That's what he was telling my husband and I. And the reason why I was questioning him is because our way, they don't sing birds when somebody passes away. You know, and Robert Levi, he was a stickler to that. He'd get upset when they'd sing birds. He said, that's not our way. And it just so happened that my sister, Kathleen, when she was passing, you know, she stopped her dialysis and she knew she was going to go and she was making plans. And she said she wanted them to sing birds over her. And I thought, oh no, because Robert was always getting on Philip and I, you know, about that. You know, it's not right, he'd say. But she said, no. She goes, I want them to sing. She said, because I want them to celebrate and rejoice with me, because I will have reached my destination. You know, because she was a Christian lady. And she said, I want them to do that, to celebrate with me. And so I went to Robert Levi and I talked to him about it. And he goes, well, that isn't our way. He said, but if that was her last request, her dying, you know, request, he said, well, you're going to have to do it. He said, and by what she said is true. He said, that's what they used to do. When they traveled, they'd reach their destination, they'd celebrate and dance and sing. So if that was her last request, he said, you know, he gave us his blessings to go ahead and do it. He said, you know, he goes, things are changing anyway. He said, even our songs, the bird songs, are getting all mixed up now. He said they're mixing it up with the Arizona songs, and you know, they're all getting mixed up. He said so. Well, from what I remember, when they used to celebrate like that, the women would cook and feed. It was just like they do for wakes and stuff, but it was a celebration. You know, they'd feed everybody, they'd cook and stuff like that, and that I could remember. What little I could remember.
Well, you were so young.
I was young, and we hardly ever went to the fiestas. You know, like I said, my dad, he was blind, and he never drank or smoked or anything like that. And to him, he thought that's mainly what the fiestas they'd do, was to drink and go crazy. Yeah. To me, the language, I could speak on the language part. To me, it's knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, you know. And I mean, the language to me is who I am. You know, that's me, is my language. Without the language, you're lost. You know, you just like, I don't know how else to say it, but to say that you're just lost. You don't know who you are. You don't know your language, you know. Back in the day, they used to say you could tell, you know, we had mountain Cahuilla, past Cahuilla, desert Cahuilla. And just by them talking or speaking, they would know, oh, they're from the mountains or they're from the pass. Their dialects were a little bit different, you know. Well, the pass, I think, maybe were more kind of different from the desert and the mountain, because I can pretty much pick up some of the mountain Cahuilla language. It's almost the same, but they just like chop them short, like for instance, like that Miahuen, we say Miahuen, and they say Miawa, you know, stuff like that. But other than that, they're pretty much similar. So I think your language is what identifies you. And from just like speaking with Robert, like he said, how the bird songs are getting all mixed up. I believe back then, back in the day, the bird songs probably identified where you came from too, you know, by singing, you know, that you know your desert Cahuilla, mountain Cahuilla, you know, they're, you know, even though they're similar, but still, you're just telling your story, you know, that's why I would assume that the bird singing would be beneficial for the children to know, and even in their dancing, like the Arizona ladies they dance differently from here, the desert. So by their dancing, you'll know where they're from, you know, that identifies them also. So that I think is a benefit to the young people, to know who they are by their dancing, their singing, their language, the way they speak. That's what I think would benefit, you know, them, to know who they are and where they come from. You know, that's the way I see, you know, when you hear that a lot, know who you are and where you come from. But without your language, how are you going to know? I started speaking. I was born into the language. I was raised by them. That's all that was spoken in the home. You know, even with my aunts, my cousins, everyone's uncles, we all spoke. That was just the way our life was, speaking the language. I would like for them to know the language. And this is my hope and my dream. I've shared it with my daughter and my son, Christopher, that I'd like to start meeting with them, getting all my grandchildren, you know, teaching them the language. Even them, even my sons and my daughter, they know, like I said, they know some, they understand it. But I would like them to be speaking it fluently, and let them, if they have to be the teachers, to continue with it, to carry it on, not to forget the language, because the language is who they are, you know, identifies them.